2 minutes past 2 from the studios of Adabaite FM. Good afternoon. My name is Dimitri Danes, and welcome to this week's edition of the Roundtable. Well, as the world continues to battle with coronavirus, it has affected all aspects of our life, and elections are not left out of this. As you know, that governorship elections will be holding in Edo State in September, and of course in October in Ondo State. And there is a ban on large gatherings. That means it is possible that politicians may not be able to hold rallies as they used to. They may not be able to campaign as they used to. And INEC as well, the Independent National Electoral Commission, may not be able to hold public enlightenment as they used to. So because of that, the commission came up with what it calls policy on the conduct of elections amidst COVID-19. That is what we'll be talking about this afternoon. We'll be looking at some of the guidelines in that policy that will obviously guide the conduct of the Ondo State governorship election and, of course, the Edo State governorship election. So joining me this afternoon, I have the Publicity Secretary of the PDP in Ondo State, Mr. Zadok Akito. You're welcome on the program.
Mr. Demeji, it's a pleasure to be here once again.
I also have with me Barrister Adetoyebo. He will be speaking for the APC this afternoon. You're welcome on the program.
Thank you very much.
We invited INEC, but it's always an impossible task to get the Ondo State INEC to come in any program. Even sometimes when you want to interview them, it's always very difficult because there are some things, some of the guidelines in this particular policy that INEC should be able to explain to members of the public. But we will do our bit. We'll get the reactions of the political parties, especially the APC and the PDP who are in the studio this afternoon. So we hope that INEC henceforth will do its job. Like I said, my name is Dimitri Danes, and this is welcoming you to today's edition of the Roundtable. Now, I know you've gone through this particular policy. What do you make of some of these measures being put in place by INEC? Mr. Zadok, Mr. Akintoye.
Thank you so very much. You know that it would not be needless if we had not had the global pandemic, the COVID-19 disease that has ravaged our world. It would have been needless for some of the measures that INEC has decided to put in place. As a political party, we have observed, and we do agree partly with some of these measures, particularly with respect to obeying those laws to mitigate the
ensuring safety at the polling unit. Let me read out some of them. Let me read out some of them. One, infrared thermometers will be supplied and used at the registration area collation centers, the local government area collation centers, and the state collation centers. The use of face mask is mandatory for all involved in the election process and must be worn at all election locations. The commission shall provide face masks for all election officials. Alcohol-based hand sanitizers will be provided for election officials and the polling units. Methylated spirit and cotton wool will be provided for the disinfection of the smart card readers after the fingerprint of each voter is read. The rules of physical distancing shall be enforced at all election activities, including stakeholder engagement, training, queuing at polling unit, etc. Then all protocols issued by the NCDC, Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, state committees on COVID-19, and other relevant health authorities shall be observed by election officials and all stakeholders. These are just some of the general measures in place. But as we go along, we'll talk about some of the other ones.
Yeah, I think what INEC has done, and which most political parties would agree with, is that they have also been shown corporate social responsibility, particularly with the fact that during this pandemic, we also have two major elections, Edo and Ondo State.
And there are by-elections as well. They have been postponed.
They've been postponed.
And INEC is saying one by-election will hold now before the two governorship elections, just to test run some of these guidelines. Yes.
Hopefully, for us as a party, elections will be on the 10th of October, at least 10th, for what INEC has already declared. What we are waiting for is that some of these measures may not necessarily be needful if compliance level by citizens continues to be on the high side, and the issues of finding workable protocols for living with the virus. For instance, most places now you see that there are activities even in Ondo State, and people are beginning to understand how to live side by side with the virus. By the time elections,
it may stay with us.
It may stay with us for a long while. So by the time elections will be holding in October, we expect that compliance level, obedience to these protocols, the acculturation of the people to a COVID-19 era as we are living in would have become much higher. Where there will be issues and where we have concern as a political party is
don't worry, we'll get to that part.
Yes.
Let me turn to you, Barrister Little Igbo. What's your general take on this policy?
Well, it is a welcome development, especially for the All Progressives Congress, the APC. In Ondo State, it is very clear that naturally the tenure of the incumbent governor, with the governor representing the APC as a party, and having been doing a lot in the last 3 years plus now, it is very clear that INEC came out by issuing these guidelines that for the fact that we're under the COVID-19 pandemic, it is not just natural. It was not a usual time happenstance that at this point in time can we have an election under lockdown, under COVID-19 rules and regulations, and a lot of furore and discourses were on. But
some people were even calling for the postponement
of the election. INEC said constitutionally, if this election is to be postponed in Ondo State for 10th of October 2020 and Edo State 19th of September 2020, that there will be constitutional crisis. So you are talking about political parties now. 18 political parties jostling for the governorship, for one seat. So it means that we will now have a legal lacuna. And what INEC has to do naturally was to make an announcement that they are sticking to the earlier dates, that there will be no shift in date of the election. So this, having announced these guidelines, all the political parties, accepted this, given the circumstances. No political party resented it. So the APC have been working in tandem with the guidelines of INEC by saying that, one, if you don't wear your face mask, you cannot come near the polling unit. At the same time, you will have a right to vote. That's a very good development. That is, health issues, protection-wise, which is in order. At the same time, bringing in Friday thermometers to test temperatures. The temperature is not just of the voters, but it relates to the INEC officials themselves. So traveling from, not just everybody, I read it very well. The INEC officials will be tested during and after the election.
The polling unit.
Then anybody who's having temperatures, but particularly the officials, and they shall beacon on the REC, the INEC REC commissioner, before such a person, if the situation, concedes to COVID-19, that person will be taken away. That's a very good development as well. Then another area that's so important is that voting shall commence by 8:30 a.m. as against the natural 8 o'clock, and it shall close by 2:30. So those are the problems. I'm only picking the improvements there. So for the fact that there will be two lines, there will be double lineage arrangements. Those who have lines inside and outside the polling booth. So, and the people will now be to use ties and twines to prevent overcrowding and this physical distance issue. Which is another good, just like you go to the bank now for somebody to fill for another person comes in. So to now say that then it said anybody who is outside the polling unit that is on the queue with the outside line, he can vote if he is there as a dot of that 2:30. So this is another purpose.
Now we'll get to that part. We'll get to all those things. I have all those with me. Now, I've read to you some of these measures, the general measures.
They are very clear.
They're very clear. Now, going by the nature of COVID-19, you agree with me? We have heard from professionals that are people who may be infected without showing symptoms. But that does not stop them from infecting other people. Even though they are not showing symptoms, they can infect other people. Now, do you think, as I've read to you, that these measures are effective enough to protect voters? To prevent voters. We're talking about
on both ends.
To protect voters and election officials, knowing, as I've said, that there are people who may be infected and who may not show symptoms.
What we should know or understand is that given the circumstances, we are not in a perfect situation. So the fact that, God forbid, that is why bringing in Friday, thermometers to check temperatures on people or their officials. At the same time, they said they will bring this spirit with cotton wool, okay? Methylated spirit, so that
to clean
on the smart card readers, when you are putting your finger across, it is being cleaned immediately, which was not the issue in the previous elections. So when you look at some of these mayors, it's to say that earthwise they are taking the needed steps to ensure that people are not infected. So bringing all the new materials, then using some online mayors, even the recruitment drive. At the same time,
we'll talk about that.
I'm only saying that all these mayors should be enough, because if anybody is showing symptoms, that person could be taken away.
I love that word. Yes. On the line should be enough. Yeah. Now, you know the nature of our people. Even when it was so serious, when government was doing our palliatives, you know what happened at some of these centers? How people became unruly
and rowdy, honestly coming at each other.
That's what I'm asking.
Even on the queue.
And you know how it is with elections in Nigeria. That's why I'm asking you that question.
The point that there will be distancing, the normal distancing, maybe about 6 meters or so,
2 meters,
will be maintained.
6 feet.
So at minimum and maximum. So at the same time, you will not have an avenue that when people are queuing outside, people are coming, and also they are talking about a threshold of increasing the voting strength from 500 voters to about 750 to 1,000, about 2,500. So it means that instead of having polling units everywhere that could not be managed, so when you have a kind of concentrated polling unit in a place that will be so well manned, and the distribution of
people, yes, voting points.
The voting point is that you now have more numbers of people being stretched across. So the distancing issue will be there. So the protocols will be observed, and at the same time, it will be very healthy. And if you see anybody who is having a problem, whatever it is, it could be easily spotted out. At the same time, rigging, all sort of manipulation issue will be removed, because you are now having, more so it's an election that, apart from Edo and Ondo State, there are difference of 21 days in between Edo and Ondo State. From September 19, and then also Edo is even coming first before our own.
So they won't buy elections.
So we're talking about even at the gubernatorial level. So they were able to test run these new guidelines in Edo State before Ondo State. So there will be perfection here, if not even a near perfection at least. So it means that whatever happened in Edo State, we are neighbors. So it's easy for them. And let me tell you, the INEC said that they will not even encourage movement of the officials as such. So if you are official, then movement of material, polling material, will have been on ground long time before. So it's not just a matter of watching and that they only add on, including materials and their officials. At the same time, the online issue will be of assistance. Yeah. Like the PCR now, continual registration of voters, they will stop it now because they will only update. You can even check your voting status.
Don't worry, I'll come back
online.
To you.
I'm only saying that
we'll get to that
it's
part.
a very good development at this point in time.
Okay.
It's a very good development.
Let me quickly turn to Zadok. Now, this policy, like you said, the APC likes it. It's a very good one, as you have said. Now, if you look at the voting public, a large chunk of the voting public are not so literate. And there are even the literate one. There are so many people who have not even heard anything about this policy. Some have heard about it. They have not gone through it. They don't even know some of these mayors in this policy. Now, do you think INEC should by now be doing more to educate the people on some of the things contained in this policy?
I absolutely do believe that not just for INEC, political parties too must continue to educate the general public, particularly on issues that affect governance and issues that affect elections and corporate existence as a country. It's very important for INEC as an organization to do more voter sensitization now, considering that the conventional voter
they may not be able to do face-to-face.
The conventional sensitization itself would have to now be incorporated into this new system, or if I may use that word, of having to live with COVID-19. Because generally in elections that most Nigerians 18 years and above are used to, we didn't have reasons to have to insist on social distancing, sanitizers and all. And so it becomes very important that INEC as an organization ensures that our people, particularly in the rural areas, are informed. One thing I think that INEC will face a challenge with if they don't do massive education of the citizens will be in compliance, enforcing compliance by citizens. Most voting units that are in the interior parts of the state may not
riverine areas
may not have adequate compliance levels. What INEC should then be advised to do, it's not just to make directives. INEC must interact with political parties and key stakeholders, NGOs.
I believe they're doing that because INEC had a meeting with national chairman of political parties. Yes,
they must do that at the local level as much as possible, so that the information and directives at the national is also localized for the people to be able to accept and live with. This election, the implication of some of the new measures that we are compelled to bring into the system is that voter participation may be lower than usual, because if people are kept in the sun and you have a long line, and elections will end at 2:30 in the afternoon, for instance, the implication of that is, what have we done? Have we done simple experiments to find out how long does it take for you to accredit one single voter and let that voter, complete the process through the voting itself? So we need to do this, because if we keep people on the line for a long period of time, then you might have an issue with the number of people that will be registered. If you enter at 2:30 and you still have a long line of 1,000 people, how long is it going to take you to get there? Because validly, INEC has said anybody on the line by 2:30 will still participate or will be allowed to vote. So how do you do that? All of these things we must all sit down together to look at how we ensure this works. Our party has always complied. When the directives came for closing the business centers and organizations and offices, we did that immediately, because we believe that the health of the people is paramount, and it's only a healthy voter that will go to the election point to vote. So whether we are in the APC as I am, or as my fellow debater is in the APC, what we must do is that we must keep educating our citizens and keep protecting their lives. This has nothing to do with politics.
Political parties have a role to play.
They have a
let me turn to Barrister Neto Ibo. What advice, how do you think INEC should proceed on ensuring that this document is not just a document in theory, but that every member of the electorate, every voter, not just in Ondo State, in Edo, in some of the places where by-elections were held before the two governorship elections, understands what is contained in this policy document?
Well, it is very natural and, done and imagined. INEC having put this template, most of the states are still under lockdown. But let us basically concentrate on Ondo and Edo State, because we are talking about governorship election, taking 2 states, population about 5 million each. So let us leave the by-election issue. But the fact is that this manual, I think about 32 pages a manual.
No, 17 pages.
70 pages manual. Is to show that INEC has prepared a template. And having the grand number of going to online electronic voting in 2021. So they are starting from this. Apart from the fact that this will still commence being a manual voting method, but with some imputation of online arrangements. So it shows that from now on, the National Orientation Agency, the other, the Ministry of Information in Nigeria, the State Ministry of Information, especially Ondo State, Edo State now, have a lot of job to do to domesticate this document, putting it in the local dialects. I want to advise that strongly. Yoruba language in Ondo State here, the Akokos, you can have something like that, the Owas, the Akures, the Kales, the Lajes, the Yarogbo Ijos, the Wapo Ijos. So all because you have so many dialectical local dialects in Ondo State, so we can domesticate it at this level. So like tablet, so it will go around. People can the kind of pamphlets. So I like in Ondo State, the REC they can do this, and as well the state government can assist in this.
And so the political
parties as well domesticate it for their own members. So to educate the voters, and also INEC has equally put a check with that. We are not likely to have the normal rallies, because there are still bans on political campaigns and rallies across the federation. So large gatherings, that's what I'm talking about. So there are no rallies. So the usual bus rallies will not be there. So to meet congregations, to meet people, pockets of people, this and that. So it will go a long way. Having this document, putting into pamphlets or tablets, arrangement. Even online can be sent on sets, so you can have access it there easily. Then the billboards could be erected, having some of the summary. You have the highlights on radio, television every day. We have so many radio stations in the state now, the TV stations. So let us continue to skyrocket this, so it will go a long way for everybody to understand. And then I are talking about stakeholders. That's from this week, from today, 1st of June, they are going to engage the stakeholders. So domesticate it to the state level, the local level, the world level, unit level particularly. You are talking about polling units. So let the INEC try to reach around. Let the state government try to reach around. Let the print and electronic media assist. Then the newspaper, the print media, I equally do something about that, because I read in The Nation last week Tuesday and this day. It was very comprehensive, and I'm very happy about that. That's why I can say I'm saying it clearly now. So the grasp of the issue is that INEC has powers to regulate. Okay, people are talking about why they bring it online as the constitution be amended, but INEC are saying that, and I've said as a lawyer, that by virtue of section 160 sub 1, INEC has powers with the approval of president to regulate, to make rules and regulations, to ensure for the conduct of election and assign duties. And due to section 153 of the Electoral 2010 as amended, allow INEC to make rules and regulations and issue guidelines manually or whatever it is. So electronically, we are advancing to a stage that Nigeria, INEC chairman said it, Nigeria clamoring, okay, for improvement on electoral system, electoral reform wise, and that by electronic voting, maybe we can move to the next level like the advance. But they say a lot to do. But for now, bringing some online arrangements that results of election, collation of results, like Sadok said, when you are saying that voting will start by 8:30 and ending by 2:30, and the queuing system now on double queuing something. But I don't see any problem there, because they are saying that the queue will not be too long. It's just as we are coming, queuing, so you can be zeroing from 8:30, accreditation is done, voting can commence immediately. Not just you are accredited, have to wait somewhere. Then those who are outside on your turn, then you come in again, another maybe about few people coming in, others are going.
Do you take into account that sometimes the smart car readers do have issues?
Could be malfunctional.
Technical issues.
It has always been there. Even former President Jonathan had that problem. Most governors, then they now resorted to manual accreditation. Yes. So the INEC should clear. INEC should clear this again now. Whether we will still have the likelihood of malfunctional card readers at the same time, everybody has to fill. Those who are not captured, who could not go through the card reader system, will have to fill the incidence form and have to go and be accredited by manual method. So if we agree, that's part of the agreement. It will not be a matter of tomorrow, some party or somebody say, we don't accept this because it was not cleared. There should be purpose of clearance. And that is why the electoral law, the electoral issue, there should be publication and subsequent publication. In administrative law, we're always talking about subsequent publication. I have published this, it is not do subsequent publication. That's why the time lag before now the governor that is there, it will still be there to 24 of February on his first term. So that means that before the expiration of a tenure, that is why the Electoral Act Amendment law has been so good, so that all litigation issues are taken care of. All complaints are taken care of. So I need to get it right. When they get it right in Ondo State and Edo State, then it could go from there. And at the end of the day, we are already amending our electoral law. So by the time that we amend to the constitution holistically and comprehensively, we can have some of this important to the constitution. So as at now, I've seen this arrangement as a worthwhile one, but I need to ensure that all the details of the 72 pages document are domesticated. 17. So it should be documented, it should be domesticated. Everybody should have knowledge of it, because we have a lot of illiterate voters. The issue of somebody writing your name for you or try to do something for you, especially those who are challenged, blind, physically challenged, this and that. So I should spell this out, because I've not seen areas covering that clearly. Okay. So that all the parties could still have a stakeholders meeting and agree with INEC at the state level and local level and all this.
One more question for you now. Now, part of the move, if you say you read through
comprehensively digested,
one of the moves being made by INEC, as stated in this document, is that they're trying to work with the legislature to ensure that subsequently elections are designated as essential services.
I read that
in a time like this.
Yeah.
Now, against the backdrop of the cause being made by some people that even these two elections should be postponed, do you, as a lawyer, do you see this as a good move?
I have said it that constitutionally it shouldn't have been postponed, even for presidential election. When
you're talking about,
I know. I'm only saying in tandem, governorship and president are so serious. You are talking about the country and the whole state. Is that unless there is a war And COVID-19 has not been declared as a war. So Nigeria is not under war. Ondo State is not under war. Edo State is not under war. So by the constitutional arrangement, you can only, when the conduct of an election of the office of president and the governor, you can only have a 6-month extension. But to erase this constitutional crisis, INEC has worked out this holistic arrangement to say that they will continue to engage the legislatures, okay, the executive arm of government, all stakeholders, the political parties. There will be further discussions with the 80 political parties, okay, and those are everywhere across Nigeria, to see that there are ways we can continue, okay, to fine-tune, okay, to strategize, to improve holistically, in all facets, in all ramifications about electoral system, electoral law, so that election will be acceptable to all of us. These are not peer elections.
The question I asked, what about trying to designate elections as essential services? Like you have the medical worker.
It was a statement. Now that we are saying that some people are essential services.
I'm asking what you think about it.
Legally, there is nothing wrong in it.
Okay.
Because today, because of COVID-19, we now categorize certain services as essential services. I was saying right time police are arresting people, lawyers, the legal profession has not been categorized as essential services. So when you are service, legally, when you arrest people and we are giving them bail, and the principle of rule of law, the principle of law is not pronounced there, because when they have access to lawyers, to counsels, so police are not doing what that means the law is substantiated. So then INEC are now saying that we are going to engage all the stakeholders to ensure, apart from INEC officials, transmission and transportation of electoral materials, the entire process, the gamut, the barrage of issues surrounding electoral issues, okay, should not be carried as essential service, so that at every point in time there is a template. There's an ongoing processes. Registration of voters, you can just click online and you check your status. If you have not been captured, then even to increase to the updating of the voters register in line with the electoral law, with the 2010 electoral act as amended, even the other factions that has not been assented by the president. So this will now be done, so that before 2023, when we'll be having presidential election and the whole gamut of about 29 seats of governorship, apart from these special governorship elections. So we will now have a perfect and a better acceptable to all Nigerian electoral arrangement, wherein the law, it will not be just the INEC regulation of guidelines, INEC manual, is it electronic, the confusion there, the issue of transferring or the transmission of the election results, disputation here and there. You remember the Atiku versus Buhari issue, the issue of server, INEC server.
Okay.
So we're only saying that INEC is only saying that categorize election and IHU as essential service. So it's in a good direction. It's not that it's legally upright.
Now, in this document, in this policy document, part of the things that INEC has highlighted here is that there's going to be a voter code of conduct, VCC, which is going to specify the conduct of voters at the polling unit. Now, as a political party, what would you like to see in this voters code of conduct?
I want to quickly respond to the issue you mentioned, and I'm not going to take your time. I think elections are not essential services. While they are important, there are already safeguards within the Constitution in NST. For instance, if we don't hold this.
You're saying you don't want elections to be designated?
No, they should be designated as essential services, because the system itself is fail-proof. For instance, in the event that we don't hold this election, we have a State House of Assembly. We should constitutionally take charge of government. The Speaker will then become the acting governor in the event that we can't hold this gubernatorial election. If at the end of the tenure of the Speaker's right to be acting governor or to be a member of the House of Assembly, we still cannot hold elections, then the Attorney General of the state should take charge, because I believe that process is already laid down. There can't be vacuum. Now, the insistence that this election must hold on the 10th of October, maybe because I know we still have up to January for us to constitutionally be within the timeline for the election itself. So there's no hurry. That said, I don't think
we don't have up to January, because
we do have up to January, because the revised
we don't have up to January.
If the PDP or Zadok is looking for shifting of the election,
we are not doing that.
Let me just say this.
Answer the question,
because you are not.
Just hold on. I'll come to you. You have
he asked me to respond to
you will respond. Let him finish with his statement.
Now, concerning the other question you asked about the code of conduct.
Okay. Odi, let me go back to it now.
Now, he has said like a shift in the election date could have been, a better option, whether supported or not. And the fact remains that the governor was elected and he constituted a cabinet, including the attorney general is talking about. Yeah. The moment the governor is dissolved, that is the person who is holding the office of the governor, his entire cabinet, all political appointees had to go. So we will not have the likelihood of bringing a general Chris like in Plateau in the state of emergency, or in Ekiti where you have General Lune. Then again, another scenario when you talk about a speaker of the House of Assembly as number 3 man taking over, the assembly election took place the same day. Okay, there was the governorship election. By law, I'm talking constitutionally, all over Nigeria, there was the presidential and national assembly election. Then there was the gubernatorial and state assembly election tied together. So the same tenure. Okay, so we are saying that. Forget about Ondo State here. We are talking constitutionally. Let me finish. What is the same thing? Law does not, because of Nigeria, does not stipulate the tenure of the governor and the House of Assembly does not expire. It's not simple. It's not simple. Don't let us be of Nigeria. I swear not to defend the constitution of Nigeria as a lawyer. I'm only saying that. Because of Nigeria, I'm coming to that. Let me pose the question. Because of Nigeria,
what he was saying was that in Ondo State, the tenure of the governor is different from that of the lawmakers. You may proceed now.
Why I'm saying is this: I've talked about the attorney general. He will agree with that. The governor goes, the attorney general to go. Okay, I was drawing some scenario. Okay, that the constitution says except when the country of the state is under a seat of war. There's no war in Ondo State for now. So, health status, social issues, coronavirus or COVID-19 is a social health issue. Okay, individualistic. It's only that government has to prevent. Okay, so we are saying that before what will happen for the speaker to take over power. Okay, under that arrangement, the governor must have been impeached. The deputy governor must have been impeached. Or incapacity to function in office. That's the law. Peculiarly, you don't get a law from those states. So that peculiarities must be read in tandem with the situation in Ondo State. So we are not on that one in Ondo State. Our pandemic situation is not even up to Lagos. So the safety net, whatever is it, the lockdown issue, we have a process on ground. So we will look at we can function. So it does not go with a speaker taking over under this arrangement. So it is under a different situation. As I said, I have to quickly get that. You can get it legally.
Okay. Now let me turn to Zado. Yeah.
I think that it's very important that we listen to ourselves very clearly.
Yeah.
So that
we're not talking APC. Let me say this. We're not talking APC, PDP here. We're just talking INEC.
I think I've been talking the law majorly.
What I've said.
I'll come back to you.
Wait, sir, please. With all due respect, sir. What we have said, we have not said that we are advocating for a shift in the election.
Okay.
What I've simply said is that INEC still has time. So I want him to please get that very clearly. We never said, as a political party, that INEC should shift the election. We are just saying that we have enough time to ensure that compliance level of the citizens and the assurance that when that election does hold, we won't have itches. It's still there. We could shift it to November. We have that time. And the Constitution deliberately had made provisions to ensure that the execution of an election has enough time between when the election is held and when the new person is sworn in, because there are administrative things that are to be done. There could be emergencies that don't permit the election. So our party has not said the election should be shifted. So I want to get that clearly. And we are not advocating that. INEC is the authority that constitutionally can determine when elections will hold. And INEC has said it is on the 10th of October. We are abiding by that.
The PDP is ready for that.
The PDP is ready for that. Now
let's go to the vote of conduct.
The code of conduct is part of voter education. It's part of the development of our electoral process, and it's a valid item. We are not against it because it does not say that when you go to.
No, we're talking into account.
No, it is important.
COVID-19.
It is important.
What would, as a political party, what would PDP like to see in there? Because what brought this about is the issue of COVID-19. That was why INEC came up with this policy document.
What we would hope that INEC would do is to ensure, particularly at the collation, we are not bothered about voters. Voters will go to the polling unit to vote, and they will vote for whoever they want. You can only advise You can't determine entirely how people are going to act at the polling unit. For instance, INEC should think about the issue of emotion, the emotion of the people. For instance, somebody can be at the polling unit and he feels that his position is not being defended or justice is not being done. How does that person, how do we have a system to ensure that the person does not complain or, break the protocols? What we must do, which is what I hope INEC itself will do, is to ensure that at all points, INEC is fair to all political parties, whether they are major, they are minor, they are important or not. And that will be the guarantee for proper elections. We don't bother ourselves too much about the need for protocol, because if we had not had COVID-19, there would not be any discussion as to people having social distancing.
This new policy.
No, there won't be. But all Nigerians must understand that because we are now living with COVID-19, whether political parties, APC or PDP or the others, we must then together move forward to acculturate our people to the pressing need for all of us to be socially responsible at the polling unit. Right now, government has said you can't leave your house without a face mask. A lot of people are still breaking
are not wearing them,
which means that they have not yet become a culture to it. If you look at the issue of social greetings, most people are complying. Rarely do you see people hugging each other. It's become a culture, it's now normal to them. And so when you are taking people from what is normal to what is abnormal, there's a time of education. And that's the only thing our party will hope that INEC will do. Educate the voters more. We are doing that. We will continue to do that as the elections approach. Our responsibility as a political party is to ensure that all voters, whether they will vote for us or vote against us, must be secure at the polling unit. Because then, forget about the fact that we are of different political parties. It's the people that we're expected to be responsible to. And any protocol that INEC puts in place or government puts in place that would ensure the safety of our people, we will abide and encourage.
Would you like to take a shot at the same question?
That
the voters' code of conduct.
Well, what I only see is that by expansion, apart from the issue of putting on face masks, the issue of hand sanitizer, the normal protocols, washing of hand, you put everything there. Then the methylated spirit issue. So all other improvements there could still be done. Because the voters, you are talking about illiterate people, I think there should be concerted effort. As a matter of urgency, as a very critical situation, that everything must be put in place to ensure that this election, does not promote the spread of other spread of COVID-19.
A spike in the confirmed cases.
That's what I'm saying now. They should not be an avenue. It should not create any avenue to further spread of COVID-19. So INEC should do everything holistically, concentratedly, and ensure, there is a targeted arrangement that there must be insurance of all these provisions. All these guidelines must be strictly adhered to. Whoever violates it, any party, any individual, should equally be subject to the normal, legal sanctions under COVID-19. So we're only saying that we are operating on an abnormal situation. At the same time, we should know that we are having a critical, exercise at hand. Like Zada was saying that he said election issue should not be essential service, whatever is it. If election is not essential services, what could be essential services? Because we are saying that we don't do election with all levity, we do carelessness. What brought about issue of PVCs? Voters' cards are being bought, being purchased. Now we are talking about purchase of voters themselves now. Sell and buy. So with improvement, electronic vote, whatever is it now, we are talking about so whereby all this nonsense will be eliminated. Because election is the most important thing in life. After human person, after God. Because we are talking about leaders. The only is saying that if it's not the essential services, and the fact that you are talking about January, time will not be there. Because you say with 180 days, you are talking about going to the tribunal, going to the court of appeal, and this and that. Because appeal of government election stops at the court of appeal before. Now you have to go to Supreme Court. So 3 courts. So January will be too late. The time is not there. That is why they say they cannot shift. Unless there's the amendment to the electoral law to shift the issue of 180 days, presentation of the election time, this and that. It becomes also when the court does not even give judgment, they become functional official. Look at the Sheyi Makinde and Adelabu in Oyo State. That was the problem. So I want to just say this, that INEC should ensure that they parley with legislatures. I'm coming to that again, to ensure that election issue in Nigeria is made and essential services. As of now, Benue State had the local government elections. We had the results, I think yesterday, on Saturday, that 5 political parties participated in the election under COVID-19. So the Benue State Electoral Commission conducted the election, not INEC. And we had maybe Cross River. Either they had conducted the election, as well as so in other countries like South Korea, they conducted elections. In an African country, I think Rwanda also, they conducted election under this COVID-19. So we're only saying that it is not abnormal. So the rules of lobbying, that's why I was saying that.
Okay, we don't have all the time. I'll come back to you.
I think I'll
come back to you. Because I have so many questions.
They are very clear.
Now, in his bid to ensure that his offices are not crowded, INEC is also saying that even the recruitment of ad hoc staff, he mentioned it.
They will just
well, let me pose the question. Ad hoc staff, observer groups and all of that will be done online. And that some of the ad hoc staff would even be SMS will be sent to them about their postings, unlike before where they will have to go to INEC look at. Now, do you trust this process? Do you trust this process?
Not in its entirety. Not in its entirety.
What are your concerns?
Our concerns are particularly the.
What I'm asking is that this particular election, the stakes seems to be high. I don't know.
Very higher than before.
If you may know also that the chairman, Professor Yakub Mahmoud, will be leaving the stage from of INEC later this year also, just after the conduct of the election. And for us as a political party, the new processes put in place by INEC must be fail-proof in such a way that all political parties are assured. It's easiest to, manipulate results, manipulate the processes when you don't have a paper record sometimes. And so our own concern as a political party is that INEC should show itself an impartial arbiter in this process. And in showing itself, it's not the proof of telling us that their systems are fail-proof. Don't forget the presidential elections we held, where INEC came to deny that they ever had a server for the records of that election. We are very concerned that if this election also has to be entirely online, if the records and the collation of results has to be online, where then is the issue of the unavailable server of INEC, where then would our results be guaranteed? What says that INEC cannot manipulate the processes to the favor of the incumbent government? Don't forget, it could be a passing gift or a passing away gift from Professor. These are allegations. That's why we are concerned. Okay. And that's why we said that for INEC to assure political parties that this process is going to be free and fair, taking away from the fact that after the presidential elections, INEC also denied that they had records in their server. And you are now telling us just a year after the election that most of our the collation and transmission of results and all will be online. How then are political parties expected to be assured that if the result does not favor the incumbent, as we have seen in the presidential election, that INEC will be an impartial arbiter? That's our greatest concern in this instance.
Okay, let me read that part to you. I think it's on page 8 of that document. It says the Commission shall ensure the use of electronic and non-contact means to recruit ad hoc staff by deploying its INEC portal, INEC portal, as well as in notifying ad hoc staff of invitations and postings. For example, use of SMS to prevent large gatherings at INEC offices during staff deployment. You want to say something?
Yeah, that one has an already tag. It's tagged already to prevent overcrowding, this and that, large gatherings.
Because of COVID-19.
In line with federal government and NCDC guidelines. Right. So to say that, to recruit you, your name will be posted, where you are going to, the clarification, all of that.
So does not trust the
it is not an election issue. It is not necessarily collation of results. They are not voting. Those who want to observe, the recruitment of officials are the INEC job. It is their own internal affairs. Parties don't recruit for INEC, so we don't have overriding powers over that. So I'm only saying is they can recruit the officials. They said those who are domiciled, the NYC, that contain the.
What if you are fake? So at the end of the day, what if we end up with?
It was even part of the guideline. He said that to remove fake observers, you'll be identified. Your details are online, so the parties can even verify. When you're talking about online technology, I think right now the globalized world is moving to that direction. You can verify anybody. It's not in this we are writing ghost names. Somebody is collecting money from behind. So voting in an election is an individual right. So issue of recruitment, observers, stakeholders, and that is guaranteed because at every police they're even saying that in most of the collation centers and that you only have one agent for the parties.
Yes,
so
I'm coming to that.
The agents, I'm only tying this to this. I'm tying that to this issue he's talking about. So you can easily, your agent can identify. If somebody says an observer, he has a tag, and you are having multiple observers at a voting.
But the agent cannot identify the ad hoc staff.
Well, let us talk about this observer. There are two things I've said.
I asked a question.
I said INEC has a right to recruit.
So you're saying parties who have concerns do not have the right.
They can raise it. That is the essence of democracy.
That's what he has done.
No, he said he doesn't trust that, and I said he said he doesn't trust it, and I said they can raise that. So to the level of identification, the party has a right. So inbuilt mechanism, because there is a tag already. We are telling you before we do the exercise that we are doing going online to recruit this and that, to identify the observers. So the parties are the stakeholder meeting before the conduct of the election. You don't talk after the election. When you should go to and say this, because is it acceptable? They are signing the dotted lines, okay? Before the election, they are signing. Results are signed by agents or parties. So the data, the Nigeria is not in isolation. Elections have been taking place in this country for years, since the 50s. So we're only saying that this time around, because what is on ground is acceptable to us. If all the parties are saying that
because of our time, you're saying the APC trusts the process. Because we
believe in it, because the inbuilt mechanisms,
because of our time. I have a few minutes to go on the program. Now, knowing that voters will be voters who do not wear face masks will be turned back at the polling unit. That is in this policy document. What are you doing? And I'm still going to ask you the same question. As political parties, to ensure that, if it is possible, hand out what is called face masks to some of your supporters, like the Ondo State government is doing for residents of Ondo State. But even at that, there are so many people in Ondo State who say they do not have these face masks, even though government says they are distributing these face masks.
The logistics for
because some people say they cannot afford.
Let me tell you truthfully that the logistics for conducting elections by political parties would have an item in it that will cater for that, because we have already considered that as a party. Unfortunately, I didn't bring mine from Let's Be an
So you're working on that.
We have something that's a prototype that would ensure that anybody at the polling unit will be comfortable there. It's a screen, a white screen with our logo on it. But don't forget,
you can't take.
Don't also forget that
you can't take anything with your logo.
That's
maybe you have to remove your logo.
To be an electoral harakiri.
That was what I was to explain.
Okay.
That for the election itself, it now becomes important that political parties would have to provide that. For instance, during our campaigns, we would ensure that as much as possible, everybody that is there is given something to cover themselves to prevent. And it becomes important for all political parties to ensure that if we are going to get INEC to allow us to gather our people in whatever small or large number to discuss or converse with them. So it becomes important for the election itself. Like I said, there's an item in the election logistics that would have to cater for that. How many political parties can afford to provide for everybody? Don't forget, it's not as if we are going to sit down.
Maybe
the government, maybe INEC itself would have to make provisions to ensure. I'm not saying that maybe INEC itself would have to make provisions for that. Political parties can't sit down and ensure that as much as possible we increase the spread of the number of people that have, which is part of our corporate social responsibility.
Because of our time. Yeah. He mentioned the collation center, and I said that was my next question. Now, in this policy document here, only one agent of each candidate will be allowed into the collation center, or probably the candidate himself or herself will be allowed into the collation center, and there will be physical distancing of 2 meters. That's 6 feet. Now, I'm going to ask Barrister Adetoyibo, are you comfortable with this? Knowing that before now, at collation centers, we have members of political parties filling up the hall and all of that.
The point is that we may have comfort and discomfort at these issues. But when you have a template like this, under these circumstances, it is a mayor that we have to work with. It is a mayor, a timely mayor that we have to live with. So what matters is that you are talking about limiting one agent, others could be outside. So somebody stands in there for you, 18 political parties. So when you are having 18 agents to contend with, just to monitor and ensure that the result, the votes casted for the respective candidates counts. That is the essence of it. So at the same time, INEC itself says that in our own, we are going to provide face masks for our own officials.
Yeah,
okay,
just their
I'm not running that. So their own officials. So the political parties will ensure that their supporters, okay, and of course their agents put on this material. If you don't put, they're not represented. So at the same time, let me just add that this
I'm not
election.
talking about, maybe you don't, maybe
I'm
not talking about the health implication now. I'm talking about the sanctity of the process.
That's what I'm saying, that if a party has an agent there,
Okay.
that's sanctity. Okay? Party A, 18 political parties have said they are very clear about that. Once the attention of the parties are sending to the result, once they sign the result of the election, it becomes valid. Even when you don't sign, you are there, the agents were there when votes are counted and collated, and the agent is absconding, he says he's not going to sign it, okay? Once the agents of that party sign it, okay, it does not invalidate the election. So it is there that all the agents are there before the commencement and after the election to witness, okay? It is to witness, to stand by the result and vote of their own candidate. So if you abscond, that's your own problem. So once majority of the agents signed, and when you sign and people are now contesting, say some other child outside. So the fact remains that this election does not really, okay, wishing to eliminate anybody or multiple representation by parties. They could be outside. Even you can
quickly, my last question, because of our time. We don't have time, but you seem to be going on and on. Now, my last question, the elephant in the room now. How do you feel that for the first time in a very long time that you may not be able to campaign, to hold street rallies as we used to experience?
If you and I had met on the streets and had greeted by rubbing elbows or knocking elbows and eating ourselves with our legs, most people would have seen us, would have considered us cultists or whatever, because it was not part of our culture. Now, not going to a campaign ground to campaign would now be a new culture that the people would have to live with, because we all need to work together to prevent the spread of the virus. Our party is not challenged with that.
So you have strategies in place to reach out to the people?
That's what a political party that knows its onions is expected to do. We have already created scenarios. The major thing is that between the communicator and the listener, or between the speaker and the listener, there must be a synergy, there must be a connection. And our connection is with the people. And so we don't think that it would give us any extra burden. It would also free up funds for us to do some of the things that we need to do that are part of our responsibilities to the people.
What strategies does the APC have in place to reach out to the people, knowing that you may not be able to do the normal flamboyant
the APC, there were preparations for the local government polls, so which may even come up before the governorship election in this state, like we had in Benue and others I'm talking about yesterday. So the fact remains that the APC being in government has an inbuilt mechanisms. Meetings are going on one way or the other, sensitization are on radio, on television, and so many other outlets. So we have local government chairmen, councillors in the places, and so many government officials in this party that on ground throughout the news and credits of the party. And you know about the number of aspirants in the APC. They are so, we have a very high numbers. And these people, they were there in 2015. Most of them are contesting again, okay, challenging for the same seat. So it shows that in their respective localities, okay, they are going around, people are being sensitized, the government is doing that every day. The various print electronic media in the state are being funded to ensure that INEC information, the manifesto, the programs of APC have been disseminated, because you have a right as a political party to reach out to everybody, to have larger numbers of supporters, and APC are not in doubt about this. So the arrangements, it's an ongoing process, and we are going to increase this arrangement. We are going to ensure that every news and credits of the state are touched, to ensure that there are massive mobilization for this election. There are targeted people for this election to ensure that the APC
don't say that. Don't say that.
I said
campaign has not started. I'm going to stop you there. Please, you are a lawyer. You know. Do not say that. You're campaigning. Please do not say that. Thank you very much.
Hold on.
Coming on this program. And I want to thank you, Zadok. And thank you for being part of today's edition of the Roundtable. Good afternoon.
Bossa.